Hi, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Ray, and you are going to be tuning in with my good friend, Eddie. Say, what's up, Eddie?
What's up? What's up?
So welcome back to episode 2 of Inspiration in Isolation. And for those who don't know, I've currently been in isolation for the last few days. And my breakout party is this Friday. Fingers crossed that we won't still be in isolation, the whole country by then. But if you still are, I've created these episodes as a way to, I guess, inspire you, empower you, encourage you if you're in isolation, or you will potentially be in isolation, and just some practical stuff around how we can keep positive and help each other out in this time, day and age. So this is my friend Eddie. Eddie has been a friend of mine for how long we've been friends for?
Oh, how old is Rhea? Rhea is 16. So we've been friends best part of 19 years now.
19 years, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, because we knew each other before Rhea was born.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I've known Eddie in the capacity of he's a motivational speaker, he's a pastor, he's a world traveling speaker, and so he traveled to Brisbane years ago when I was a teenager. I was going through the teenage things of life, doing stupid, silly things that a good Christian boy shouldn't be doing, but that was part of my journey. And Eddie came at a time, and he spoke at this particular, I guess I would say, church camp. For those who are tuning in, it was at a church camp where, my life was spiraling a bit. Eddie was a person that I resonated with in his talks, broke me, and that was the beginning of our friendship. And so over the years, we sort of engaged in conversation via, I think, email. I don't know what was known at the time.
What do we have? We had, I think we only had email at the time.
Facebook,
we
and so
there were no real kind of social media back then. There were no kind of
nothing.
social media back then.
Yeah, nothing at all. So eventually I went over to London. That's where Eddie was living at the time.
That's right. Yeah, Rhea was born by then.
That's
Rhea
right.
She was like maybe 2, 3 at the time.
And now she's a grown teenager. That's scary.
We're grown.
Hey, at least we're aging gracefully.
Hey, listen, we are, man. And that's the other.
And so, the episode today, I really wanted to talk about with Eddie of someone who understands social, I guess, behavior. You have a master. What? Yeah, share someone. I guess you're. I mean, it's not to the trumpet, but just so you understand, we understand your background and why you're so passionate about it.
My background. My background is in social work. That's my previous background. It's in social work, and so my academics was then in communications, culture, and society. So very sociological. But my vocation has been a pastor for the past 20 years. So it's been theology and it's been sociology. So I've always found myself when I was in London working in the inner cities, working within that space. And then having come from an experience in London, and having grown up in an experience in London of growing up in those very confined spaces of the inner city, I understand what it's like to be in a social space and and to be in a consistent, intense. Just grow up in a consistent, intense. I always say I'm born in the concrete, and I am. And I'll love the concrete until the day I die. But so that's awesome. My background.
And so I guess it's so interesting that you say that. Like, if there's anyone who understands about social distancing or social isolation, confined spaces, like you said, in a concrete jungle, as we would deem it. But now, given the situation that we're in with COVID, we're seeing now a lot of your family and friends in the UK, everyone's closing doors. Italy, Europe is done.
Oh my Lord.
But now in Australia. And so today's topic is I wanted us to speak into, or you speak into the area of social distancing. Like, there's so many myths behind that, around those terminologies and the words that they use. What does it look like as a community? Are we supposed to disconnect, to reconnect? I mean, obviously, of your experience, well-traveled around the world and speaking in spaces, what have you found? Like, what's your I shouldn't say blanket. What's your overall summary in terms of what's happening in our world today with COVID? along the lines of social distancing, and then that, I think that would just launch straight into what we're going to talk about today.
I think what COVID has done, COVID has created, I think, a misunderstanding between physical distancing and social distancing.
Yeah.
We don't understand the virus, so the whole idea is that we have to physically distance ourselves in the places that we would normally socialize.
Yeah.
You know, physically distance ourselves from the places we would normally socialize. But it doesn't mean that in the places where we find ourselves, like you find yourself, you're in Brisbane, in New South Wales, it doesn't mean that through the mediums that we have, that we cannot maintain social connection.
Yeah.
And that social connection is about our friendships. That social connection is about communication.
Yeah.
That social connection is about checking in with each other. And it's interesting that we've historically, we've used this to physically distance ourselves away from each other.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we've used this to physically distance ourselves away from each other, and be social in our own selfish little spaces. But now that we have to physically and socially distance ourselves away from each other, we're realizing that this ain't enough.
Wow.
We're realizing the importance of how much we need as human beings to be not only physically, but socially.
Yeah.
Where we can see people and we can talk to people, and we can communicate with people. We can hear the laughter of people. We can do all of those things that are wired into us as human beings to make us beautifully human beings. And I think that that's what we're experiencing with COVID. COVID has changed the way we do all of that. But what we have to realize is that physical distance doesn't have to negate and disqualify social interaction. Do you know what I mean? We have to physically keep ourselves at a distance. So even if, you know, and it's funny, you know, we were just talking, and you were saying that you was in this space where everyone was separate from each other. And it's like in those spaces where we're actually standing 3 and 4 feet apart, it's like we don't even want to talk to each other.
Yeah, it was at a cafe. It was a cafe. It was at a cafe this morning.
Yeah.
Went to go order a hot drink. Well, my wife did. I was in the car. Sorry, I sent her to get the disease. But
as
you do. I sacrificed my sorry, babe. So I looked outside, and she ordered a hot drink or both of our hot drink, and then usually there's a space in the cafe where people just congregate anyway, just to wait for drinks, and we're usually just standing next to each other. Yeah. But it was just the most bizarre thing that she'd come outside and stand about 3 or 4 meters away from the counter. Then another person ordered their drink, and they would come and sort of like walked around my wife and then stood another 3 feet away from her. And then another person did the same thing, 3 feet away from the other lady. And so there was this triangle of people. And so my observation, just by pure behavior, like I'm just interested in social behavior, social distancing, I thought to myself, even we have been told now to social distance ourselves from people. All of a sudden, we're now actually physically, and like we're not even verbalizing, saying, "Hey, how are you going with the whole social distance?"
Exactly.
Because you had a similar experience this morning.
Exactly. I had the experience myself. I went into one of my favorite cafes down here, and there was that social distancing, but the distancing wasn't so much with me and the owner of the cafe and the chef who works in the cafe. We still found our way to be in each other's actually immediate proximity. But looking at the way in which the cafe was set up, looking at the way in which people outside, lesser tables were in the cafe, in between the tables, there was like a pot plant on the table that physically separated each of the tables. The fact that they've gone, instead of from being open from 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning until 3 o'clock, they're open from 8 until 12 o'clock where you can come in and eat. And then from 12 until 3 o'clock where you can only take takeaway.
Yeah, it's definitely the same up here. And I think one of the things that I think noticing now, and in terms of how do we become more social in terms of how do we enrich those relationships now that it's a mandate to be at a distance? Like,
I
what
mean,
have you found? Yeah.
I think, and I've been thinking about it. I was speaking to friends of mine in London, and I was saying, you know, social distancing is so much different here in Australia
Yeah.
than it is in London.
How so?
Simply because in London, it's a very densely
Confined.
confined space. And so you can't, you know, if you're going to say, all right, well, let's go down the park, you know, it's you know, if 100 of you say you're going down the park and you're going to split into groups of 10 and that lot, the parks are so small that you ain't going to be able to socially distance. You know, it's a very, very small space. Whereas here, living here, you know, I was saying, you know, Budgie Beach, you know, that we both know. I could go down to Budgie, I could sit at the beach, you know, even in a time, even on a day when none of this is happening, I can go and I can sit there on the beach and not be bothered for half an hour,
Yeah.
and the people walk across. So I'm saying to myself, in a context like Australia, there ain't no reason why we still can't socially come into a space and responsibly distance ourselves. So we are physically separated from each other, and we can be 4 meters apart. We literally can be 4 meters apart. But the fact that we are in each other's company and speak across a larger, just set up a larger circle, put down your mat, have your food, and at least we are in each other's company and still be social, because Australia is a big space.
Yeah.
It's a big space.
I was watching one of your good friends, your countryman, Russell Brand, just on Facebook today, and he mentioned that it's like we've been withdrawn socially, but it's actually it has to now force us to be social, force us innovative ways, not even innovative ways, just human, to be human, and check in with someone and say, hey, how you going? Like, it doesn't mean that we have to withdraw even more so. I can't touch you, I can't breathe on you. Okay, well, no one should be doing that anyway. But now I feel like, well, there's a psyche, there's a mentality that says, oh, you also can't speak to people now, social distancing.
It's mad. I mean, if we can't be in each other's immediate presence, if we can't be here, but we can be here, then how do we be here?
We feel like this.
We can't, you know,
where we go from here, and we're now told to be here, and now we're going to feel like we're here.
You know, but here means that we are still physically in each other's, we're in each other's proximity, but we're not in that space here where we're being irresponsible. But we can still be in each other's proximity. You know, I would rather, you know, if you live down the road, believe me, I would rather talk to you from 5 feet than not talk to you at all. If it means that we get together, you know, you have trained me forever. You know, if we have a session, you know, and you can't be standing over me like you would normally be doing and breaking me, you know what I mean, and sending parts of me home to my wife to fix, you know.
Hey, don't promote that in case people think, hey, we were going to train with Ray.
And then I come back the next day because I'm like, all right, I figured out. It was a good breakage. It was a good breakage, you know. But if you cannot be physically over me while I train, but if I am 10 feet from you, and then another, if there's 6 of us, we're 10 feet from you, and all of us are 5 feet apart. But so we can't train. You know what I mean? We're not in that space of contagion. You know what I mean? So like, let's figure out how we remember the importance of being just in each other's presence beyond social media, while still being socially responsible. while still being socially responsible.
So what does that look like? Obviously, for me, someone
Mm-hmm.
who's in isolation,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the brains. This is the reason why I started these
Mm-hmm.
episodes, because it's like I'm in isolation. What would be some ways that you can think of that for us and for everyone else who I reckon potentially will all be in isolation at some point? It's not a matter
Yeah.
of if, but when.
Mm-hmm.
How would you say? How do we do community well? How do we make sure that we are still socially engaged, but yet social distancing? And I guess I want to speak into that term of social distancing. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's just I don't know, maybe we use another word.
I think it's the only distancing is physical distancing. We have to stop using the word social distancing. We have to use and just use the word physical distancing, because social means engagement. Social means that you're seeing the people. Social means that you are engaging in conversations and the things that are important. So I feel like in the places that we can use the things that normally keep us connected, I feel that this is our first space that we use for important conversations, for casual conversations, for the sharing of information, for letting each others know how we're doing in each other's life. I honestly do feel I saw this thing of just on this church, and it was a crack up, but it worked so well. They all drove into the car park.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they had a praise team and a band, and they were rocking. And people just stayed in their cars.
Brilliant.
Yeah, everybody stayed in their little isolation pods, and they were just rocking in their isolation pods. I'm serious. Everyone
Turning
was
up the
rocking in
tune.
yeah, I'm serious,
That's awesome.
rocking in their little isolation pods. Cars were driving around each other, windows were coming down, people were sending shout out, but they were still being social while physically distancing.
Yeah.
And I think what we have to do is we have to try and figure out ways, how can we physically be in each other's space?
Yeah.
Without compromising each other's health.
Yeah.
While at the same time, valuing what it means to actually be human. I think the value, I don't even want to use the word. I think the silver lining with COVID is reminding us what it means to actually be connected humans.
That's awesome.
COVID is reminding us how important it is to be connected humans.
Yeah.
I think when this is over, that we're going to use this differently.
Yeah.
Because this was originally meant not for us to exist in our own little selfish worlds. This, in terms of social media, was originally meant to be a catalyst that I need to be where Ray is.
Yeah.
I don't care if Ray lives in Australia. I need to find out how I get to Australia and actually meet Ray.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the same with you. Man, I need to meet this guy, man. All right, I'm going to England, but
which I did.
Which you did. And then I moved here.
And then you moved here. And now we ended up
and
living
now here we are, And I feel that social, if COVID does anything to benefit us, it should benefit us in the way we rethink what social media is all about.
Yeah.
Social media is about using social media as a catalyst to bring us into each other's company physically.
Physically, yeah. And I guess I just wanted to get your opinion on your thoughts. Obviously, for those who are tuning in, who are not churchgoers, who are not believers of faith, you guys get a hall pass. You can just pause. You can skip a few seconds of this interview. But if you want to listen in.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you more so about a church context in terms of social distancing.
Oh.
Where do you see our church when we come out? When I say our church, not just our Seventh-day Adventist church, but just the churches in general.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you've seen the past weekend where everyone was just like live streaming, like it was the internet almost had a meltdown with all the churches doing live streaming.
Literally, yeah.
But at the end of COVID, and this is a question I asked Troy the other day, one of the guys said, what will the church look like for for our communities? What
Mm.
does the church look like in the new community? And what do you hope for it to look like?
Well, I think if the church is understanding anything now, it is understanding that the way in which it communicates to its own people isn't enough,
Yeah.
because so few people are choosing to tune into what they would normally experience on a Saturday or a Sunday. They're like, all right, now I've got every reason to just tune in over here
Yeah.
because they feed me more or they inspire me more.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to a local church, I think that is an important lesson there. I think when it comes to the church in general, I think it is a really important lesson to think about. I think it's going to become a very important lesson in terms of the way we think about how we engage in being present with people.
Hmm. I like that.
How we
I
be
like that.
present with people.
Yeah.
Um,
Not that.
because right now,
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
because right now we can't physically be present with people, but how do we emotionally? How do we ideologically? How do we spiritually? How do we in terms of the way in which we add value into people's life, how do we come to be present with
Yeah.
them? And I think what COVID is doing is, for us as a church community, as a Christian community, it's stripping away everything that we do that can actually just be pretentious and just a traditional week in, week out practice, and actually forcing us to think about how we find the heart of people,
Yeah.
how we
I like that.
actually find the heart of people.
Yeah.
When all you can do is use this medium to communicate with somebody and it's no longer face to face.
Yeah.
What is it that you say in that space? And then at the end of the day as well, for those people who are isolated and for those people within the communities that surround the churches where you would normally, and the communities where you would normally worship every week, how now do you address those communities,
Yeah.
especially if you're a commuter community going into that space?
Yeah.
You know, especially if you was a commuter community,
Yeah.
you know, everybody's like, well, at least we get our parking spaces back for the next month, you know. The
So
community is going to
yeah.
know what it's like not to actually know that you're there.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, the community is going to feel what it's like to not have you there.
Man, I feel
And
like
it's,
we've just done this. It's
yeah,
the
yeah.
age-old question.
I'm
And then,
literally,
and then I'm
I'm,
going to
I'm going to try not
unpause.
to even cry, because now that I've even thought about it,
Yeah.
the community is now going to know what it feels like not to have you there. And the
Yeah.
question is,
Oh,
will
don't
they
say that.
miss you? The question is,
Ooh.
will they miss you? Yeah, yeah.
Unpause. Let's go back to our friends who are now got a magnifying glass over our churches going, do you guys have an impact? I truly believe we do, and
Mm,
I know that you believe we do. But
mm,
so I guess this is inspiration and isolation. What is something that you can inspire, or maybe not something you can inspire us, but equip us, empower us in terms of social distancing? What's something we can walk away from this talk and going, yep, even though we're in isolation, this is some gold that we can hang on
I
to.
think number one, stop confusing physical distancing with social distancing. Physical distancing is how you place yourself in the general vicinity of people. Social distancing is locking people off completely. And we're not being asked to lock people off completely.
Yeah.
We're not being asked to not socially engage people, not to inquire about people, not to actually use this medium. You know, and the medium that we actually do have is an online medium. And I think now more than ever, we need to be thinking about how we can creatively do that, how we can creatively engage the people around us, the children around us, the older folk who are around us, thinking about older folk now who don't have social media. Well, how cut off are they from the world in terms of understanding? I mean, if they've got their TV, they're all right. And if they've got their TV, then they're all right. They can tune into a world of information. But then there's a whole other world of information through social media that where their children are, through Facebook, through WhatsApp, through all kind of different things that a lot of older people use anyway. And a lot of other older people haven't thought to be important, but now they're realizing, it's actually important. You know, how can you engage them? Something as simple as getting a package to them and then teaching them by going up to their window with the window closed. Can you hear me? Yeah. And just teaching them through the window.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I swear, you're socially distancing now, but if you live near me, Ray, I would have come to you and we would have been doing this interview through the window.
Through a glass window.
Yeah, just through a glass window. Yeah, there ain't no way that I can whatchamacallit, but there ain't no reason why we can't be in each other's presence.
Yeah.
There ain't no reason why we can't be in each other's presence, you know. I've come up with this thing where it's called GoVid and FlowVid. The idea being, that COVID-19 has disrupted the way we live and disrupted the way we do life, but it hasn't stopped life. Life goes on, life flows on.
What?
So I figured, all right, over the next 19 days, I started today, I am going to do 19 things, the same thing every day that inspires somebody. That inspires somebody, that motivates somebody. And I'm going to post it over the next 19 days. Every day over the next 19 days. So go on. So I'm challenging people. You do the same. I mean, it could be anything. I live by my mouth, as you can see. So I'm just going to post 19, you know, very short, 5-7 minutes motivational talks, you know, on the spiritual side of my life. I'm just going to post 19 motivational talks that engage and hopefully inspire and hopefully motivate people. Hashtag COVID-19, FlowVid-19.
COVID, FlowVid. So Eddie, if people are trying to find you on social media, where can they find you? How can I get in contact with you?
If you want to find me on social media, I am Eddie Hypolite, Hypolite, and that's EDDIE. I am Eddie Hypolite on Insta, Eddie Hypolite on Facebook, Eddie Hypolite on LinkedIn, Eddie Hypolite on Twitter. I'm not making it hard. Or you can go to my website. It isn't eddiehypolite.com. That is down at the moment. But it is EYR Limited, EYRLTD.com.
Awesome. And we'll have those details. We'll have those details in just underneath this video here. So thank you again, Eddie. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Always, bruv.
Sharing some awesome mic drop moments about social distancing, breaking that myth, and how we as a community, just in general, whether it be a faith community or unchurched, unfaith, how we can actually still be present and be social without being distant. So I'm going to finish it there. Thank you again, everyone. Check out for the next episode and check out my bro, Eddie. COVID-19, but we're going to GoVid.
Yeah, man. And FlowVid, man. COVID. So figure out what you want to do over the next 19 days. Post it every day.
All right. See you guys. Thanks again, Eddie. Talk to you soon.
Listen.